Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, you guys, welcome. I think we're going to start. Jay, are you coming?
Coming.
Awesome. So, what day is it?
Monday.
It's Monday, the 9th of December, 2019, and we're tonight at the Scarborough United Church in this really kind of a warm, sweet room, isn't it? Yeah, we've been here 6 weeks out of 7, and the reason, I don't know the reason, but I'll give kind of a bit of an idea why I think we're here, and it just has for a year or so. Well, actually, for many years in my life, I've been mostly one-on-one helping people to see past their ideas of what should or shouldn't be, or could or couldn't be, or to see their way out of what looks like a terrible life in their perception. And so for years, one-on-one mostly, and also for many years, like 40 or so, even longer than that, I've been searching for this something that I thought was missing as well, and I've read, several hundreds of books, and I've traveled the world to be with teachers all over the world, and I've experimented with all kinds of mind-altering substances to find my way to this thing that I thought was missing, and I found that there was no way to get to the thing that I found was missing, but that there was a way to sweep away all the stuff that was between the thing that was already always there. And that was the process for me, was that I was like, I was always looking outside thinking, okay, it's got to be somewhere, and not realizing that, or even if I did realize, not knowing how to let go of the stuff that blocked me from accessing that source, that power, that universal intelligence, that God energy that I found we all have inside of us. And as soon as I say it's something, then I'm disconnected from it. I'm caught up to this idea of whatever it is I think it is, and we're pretty conditioned, strongly conditioned, and it's like we came here to do this game of, we seem to have come from Source, and we get disconnected from Source into this idea that we're here to live in these bodies and that we're here to survive, although none of us do. At one level, right? It's just a road trip, the magical mystery tour. But anyway, I digress. The idea, though, is very inviting. It's like, it's got to be this, or it's got to be that, and we're looking at finding our salvation, if you will, in relationships or in work. If I can accomplish something in this job, I'll be somebody. And there's, so everything that we do generally, and with I suspect few exceptions, is to get something. We're conditioned to believe that in many of us to the extreme, and for us that it's been in the extreme, life becomes very unpleasant. If we're in the extreme of selfishness, in the extreme of what's in it for me, it becomes a really tough place to live, because the more we're wanting stuff, security, certainty, the more it seems to elude us. And the more it becomes obvious to everybody around us that we're trying to get something. And it you know, makes it hard for folks around us because they think we're selfish. Well, we are. But our selfishness often comes out of our conditioning, out of our fear, out of our, you know, our terrible uncomfortableness with being uncertain, not knowing. So the place I was going with this is, why meditate? You know, because this really started as a meditation class, and it's kind of evolved into looking at consciousness and you know, and why meditate, and so for me, what's happened is that for years I meditated or looked for something because I thought if I got connected to that something, I'd be better at whatever it was I was doing on the outside. And I was doing it to get something, you know. I was doing it to feel better. I was, you know, and today I was with a fella and we were running around doing some stuff. And actually I looked at a post on Facebook and it was the 12 benefits of meditation. And they were, you know, and they were all legit. And so there, I mean, there are a lot of benefits on this plane of meditation. I mean, I'm going to sleep better. I'm going to be able to focus better. I'm going to, you know, there's a whole list of, you know, less stress, lower blood pressure. I mean, there was a whole list of you know, more people are going to like me. I mean, it was this whole list of why I meditate. And I was thinking about it. I was thinking, well, but that's all on the outside, and it doesn't seem to hold, you know. And it's a bit of a tough sell, because what most of us want to hear is how to be more successful, or how to be, you know, look better, or how to be more certain. And so, but I can't, that's not what I'm wanting to share, you know, because I don't believe, my experience is that everything in that realm is so fleeting. And it seems to be, you know, if we build a mansion, you know, it seems certain, but we can get locked in the mansion and be, you know, prisoners in our own mansion. You know, it's like, so it's not what we think it is. And so we're not talking about meditation so that we can get better at something. I believe that the highest possibility is that we can allow all that to drop away in meditation. That we can allow us to experience nothing. And in the nothing is where life really happens. The equilibrium, the balance, the fulcrum, you know, between chaos and order, between right and wrong, between good and bad. It's down the middle where all the action happens. And in that middle is like a space and a stillness and I think a peace. My experience is a peace. You know? So maybe we are doing it for something, you know, to have that peace, that moment, that experience of bliss. But anyway, that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I just let's meditate together for 10 minutes or so, and then, you know, we can all talk about, you know, I'd love to hear from everybody, you know, the places where we've gotten hooked up thinking it was going to be the answer. You know, that this is it for sure. and you know, and we'll have some fun with that, because I think that there's lots of people, we often have quite an audience, and it seems like they enjoy hearing what other people in the room are saying about their experience. And so I enjoy hearing it, and sometimes through speaking it pops, something shifts. And this teacher I had for many years, Paul, talked about waking up, and that there isn't. The other day I watched a video of him, and he said, if I told you all that we were all going to go to bed tonight and wake up tomorrow morning awake, enlightened, he said, nobody in the room would believe me. But if I told you that if we worked really hard for 12 years, really hard for 12 years, sacrificed everything, that it would happen, everybody would say, man, probably. And that's a belief. The one that there's no way it could happen tomorrow morning. I'm not qualified. I haven't done the work, whatever, right? And yeah, probably in 12 years if I really work hard. That's just bullshit, from our conditioning. So, yeah, well, let's sit for a few minutes and let that spin a bit. See where that goes. If you're with us tonight, maybe you could just do the same. We're just going to sit for 10 minutes and meditate. With meditation, a lot of times people say to me, oh, I have such a hard time just to sit, just to be in my thoughts. And I want you to know that I struggled for years with this. And it's only in the last little while that I so look forward to dropping into the space. So I encourage you just to take a few breaths. And the breath brings us into the moment. The breath, if we focus on the breath, we're here. Because the breath is right now. The breath is here now. So just be in your body. Allow yourself to just drop down inside with your breath. It doesn't matter if there's any noise around, just include the noise. Just allow it to happen. You could be able to meditate even on a busy intersection in New York. Just sit and breathe. And watch the mind. The mind is the tool. It's the most magnificent tool that we have. And it's here to serve us. And so you can just say to the mind that it's time to relax, that it's safe, and that we'll be back in a few minutes. It can just take a break, like it does when we sleep sometimes. That we're totally safe. Just allow ourselves to just be in our breath and be here now. If really important thoughts come, just say to them, relax. We'll be right back. And focus in on the breath again. Nice not to expect anything. Not to expect the mind to stop. Just watch it if it keeps going. Love it. Remember to love it. beautiful. Wow. So the thought that came is that the flip side of having an idea of where we're going is the resistance to what is happening. And we kind of glamorize it actually in the world where he's a real fighter, you know. He dug his heels in and, you know, willed his way to whatever, or she did, or instead of the possibility of relaxing into what was wanted to happen, and, you know, and having a peaceful emergence of what each moment was. And has anybody ever experienced any distress over what was happening, and, you know, really worked really hard not to have it happen? Any examples? Any fighters in the room? and we're proud of it too, aren't we? We're like, just, you know, she wanted to leave and I just wouldn't let her. Or I wanted to leave but I didn't. You know, because of conditioned beliefs or whatever. And so it's yeah. Any thoughts?
I think the example of like staying or being in a relationship past the time when maybe it's healthy, something I can definitely relate to.
Way past the best before date?
To the point where, you know, you sour. I don't know. I can just relate to where it's like I kept telling myself that it was like, well, this is the person that I love, and this is that we will make it work. When in reality, you know, I was just really afraid to be on my own, and because I didn't know what life would be like that.
You're the only one that's ever happened to.
Nope.
Been there, yeah. I have felt like shame around that, you know, as a, you know, a perceived adult in my 50s.
Yeah, I failed my first contract, so I signed another one thinking that would work.
Like a marriage thing, yeah.
I'm not gonna let this one fail.
Yeah. So we're so conditioned, aren't we? You know, and around the relating idea. First of all, I mean, how would we even imagine as a, you know, I think that the first time I got married, I was about 12. In maturity. Right? And not really marriage material. And then, you know, I mean, really, I think of it, I was like 12-year-old. And I think I had a 24 or 25-year-old body, but so just, and then I did it again when I was about 16. I think my body had about a 35-year-old body or 37-year-old body at the time, but still, so the whole idea of the expectations and conditions and, you know, and shoulds and shouldn'ts, you know, in a relating, wow, no possibility of of unconditional love. And, anybody else relate to that?
For sure. And even getting into relationships that I shouldn't have ever been in the first place. You know, long before not staying in them longer than they were already over, they should never have happened in the first place. I was not capable of being in a healthy, unconditional, loving type place.
And-
It was just there out of need.
And there's kind of two sides to it, though, isn't there? When you think about relating and being in a in that thing, I think that without those relatings, I mean, they did help me grow up
Wouldn't have learned.
some,
Sure. Absolutely.
a little bit. You know, they were useful because I had I was so afraid of failing that I would actually look at myself. I would do a process of self-examination. I mean, but that's what we started with this evening, was that this whole idea of of seeking, awakening or realization or spiritual connection, so that I could be better at the relating. I could be a better husband or a better father or a better. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. With that type of thinking. I just think, though, that those, so that I'll be better at those things, it was actually in the road of me having the awakening. Do you know what I mean? It was a limited possibility, and I, in the process of that, I think I learned some new behaviors. I became a better behaving person, but I didn't really find that connection in the way that I have later in life, because I was doing it to get something. Anybody relate to that? How would everybody here, I believe, in my opinion, everybody in this room could possibly think of themselves as a spiritual seeker. And this didn't just start this week. This has been an ongoing thing, except for you, James, because you just woke up. It just happened. The rest of us had to go through all kinds of shit and broken bottles and stuff. I'm kidding.
Both marriages, though, were the best things that happened to me. Other than a lot of other great things too. But yeah, I was able to see a new paradigm after I came out of those relationships. A new side of me. If it wasn't for those relationships.
So, and I totally agree. And that's what I was just saying, is that they've been great on that level for looking and seeing our behaviors, and
From pushing me, though, in a different direction.
yes, of course, in this paradigm,
Yeah.
yes, and the possibility is that there could the possibility of actually having this connection, this oneness, where we're living in a God consciousness or an awakened state, is a real, I believe, a real possibility. For me, it ebbs and flows, and it's a real possibility. And most of my life, though, I was looking to improve as opposed to awaken. Do you know what I mean? I was always looking at my behaviors and saying, how could I be better at, so I studied a lot of behavioral stuff. Or as I was studying religious or spiritual books, it was, I was looking at how can I be better at being a human being, a better human being. I think an admirable goal, you know, and yet there's a possibility beyond that. And that's what I wanted to talk about tonight, is that, you know, through meditation, through being conscious of our behaviors and our beliefs, and as we focus with the consciousness on our limiting beliefs around relating, around money, around sex, around our abilities, around who we are, and we become conscious of those beliefs, and they can drop away. And then what's left when they drop away is this being, this, not even just this moment, this undescribable moment. And where do we go from there? So does that make sense, what I'm talking about? Yeah. And so that's the purpose of focusing on self-examination. Not to change the behavior, but to let it go. I am incapable of changing the behavior. I talked to a woman recently, and she said, but if you make a decision and focus on a new habit, you can create a new habit. So it can be like teaching a dog not to pee in the corner. You know, I can teach myself not to pee in the corner. But that, I don't think that's the highest possibility for us. You know, I think that the highest possibility is to be really totally connected in each moment to the source of our being. And sometimes, in my opinion, forgive me for this, you guys, but sometimes I think that religion can stand between us in that. That we can, our beliefs are more like guidelines to live in this planet. You know, they're not really here to help us realize our ultimate, you know, power, our oneness, their beliefs, and many of the teachings, you know, have us doing a lot of different stuff. I know, like, I've been to Kundalini class, and you know, God bless Kundalini. It's there's a lot of stuff, you know, that we have to do, right? To a lot of breath work and a lot of, so, and it's, I think it's, some of it's just, you know, I mean, not just Kundalini, there's a lot of different teachings, and everybody, of course, is a lot of times people are really attached to their teachings. Like, this is the way. You have to be up at 4 a.m. and although, and there's some truth that 4 a.m. is a pretty good time for meditating, but, you know,
That's what I like all the ways.
I was going to take 10 minutes to get there. Trust me. That's my buddy James. So there are many ways. I love Osho. I remember a book I read of Osho's years ago, and he would be talking about a way to enlightenment, and it would be so convincing. It'd be like, wow, this is the way. It's a whole chapter on this way, and then he'd laugh and say, you know, that's not the way, and this is the way. And there are many roads to this awakening. There's no question. That I was with a fellow today, and I was talking about breath work, you know, and that through doing breath work, like with our friend Trevor Illick, Yeah, hey Trevor. Trevor's breath work is amazing, and we have these like experiences. Have you done breath work? Yeah, like hours of yeah, and it just takes us into an altered state, a truly altered state. Actually, it releases the DMT in our what gland? The yeah, or pineal. Pineal, yeah, and you know, and we have an altered experience, and it can be called a spiritual experience, experience of oneness, and so there are exercises that we can do to help that. The other one that I did earlier this fall was the Enlightenment Intensive, or the Satori experience, and or we spent like days of. Have you done that one, Jared? No. Days of tell me who you are, just like 16 hours a day for 3 days, or there's one coming up for 7 days of 7 days of tell me who you are, and it's a. And so what happens is that in the exercise, all the things that we think we are swept away. So it's the way to this awakening through this experience is letting go of all of our identities and all of our beliefs about who it is that we think we are. And has anybody done that here? The Enlightenment Intensive? Wow, it is so. It's not for the faint of heart. Like, it's really because imagine hours of tell me who you are, and we soon run out of stuff, but we keep going back in and keep going back in, and it just eventually it opens up to this space of nothing and this stillness. You can hear the stillness. It's amazing. It's a real oneness experience, and the oneness that we're part of. We are one with everything, and it's just all of the busyness of the mind that separated us from that. All of the conditioned beliefs, all of the ideas of what's right and wrong, good and bad, have taken us out of that, and all the resistance to what is now in this moment. It holds us in a separateness from that oneness. And when we clear it all away with this exercise, which is very diligent, it's just like, but it works. I resisted it for 25 years. Because I did it once for a couple of hours in Bali in '94, and it was just like it was supposed to be for a whole day, and about halfway through the day, I was having a physical reaction, and I crawled out of the room. Like, I was having this physical reaction, and I said, I'll never do that again. And it took me 25 years to get back in the room, because all the arrows were pointing there. This was, and I'd heard so many times that the results of this thing are phenomenal. So that's like another way to get to that space where we touch that space, and then it becomes familiar. Then it's like, oh, I know, where I'm not, when I'm in resistance, or when I'm upset because it snowed, or the car didn't start, or upset about anything. I know I'm not in that space. I'm in, or if I'm in fear about something, I'm not in that space, or if I think something's missing. Another way is through meditation. I have a friend. James and I have a friend, Aaron. Is it Aaron with the triangle thing? Simon. Oh, Simon. Well, no wonder he smiles every time I see him. I call him Aaron all the time. I saw him today, and he just smiles and hugs me. But this man meditated for days and days and weeks, and when he had his body was in a physical mess, and his mind was a wreck, and that's his story. you know, and he just decided to go into this deep into meditation, and like for days and weeks and months, and had a breakthrough, you know, had an amazing breakthrough, and to an awakened state, and so it. If we're talking about it, and you think, what is that? It's okay not to know what that is. I'm giving these examples though, because I think it's important to share that it is happening for people, and they're not just fleeting states. You know, they're a real connection that's like, oh my gosh, this is who I am, and then you're kind of fucked because you can't go back after that. You know, it's like you're not really fucked. You're really, you know, it's a sweet kind of thing, but there's no going back to the blissful ignorance of nothing, of not knowing. You know, well, because you're actually accepting the not knowing, and it's a different kind of knowing. It really is. And what other one is there? Oh, there's plant medicine. There's plant medicine. The reports are that some really neat stuff happens with you know, the shamans have been playing with plant medicine forever, and you know, awakened states come out of that, and it's you know, it's not just a fad. It's been happening since forever, and so anyway, I don't know why that wasn't my plan to kind of talk about those things, but the idea of going nowhere, letting go, watching in the mind, it's contrary to everything that we're told, because we've been told that we should have a vision board. Right? And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with having, you know, holding some thought of, you know, what we'd like to have in a way, if that's up for us. But I think that we can be so intent on it being this way that we miss all the beauty on the road. You know, we're like, and not only do, you know, we want a yacht, a 3-master sailboat, you know, a big, you know, 3 masts, you know, like it, but we want to kind of control the whole process of how it happens. So, you know, I think if stuff comes up for us and it seems appropriate, you know, and it's part of our journey that we want to sail the South Pacific, let's say, then, you know, and to keep that vision, you know, open is lightly, not obsessively, is part of, you know, the excitement of being on the planet. You know, I think we can do whatever we want if we do it in a conscious way. And yeah. Anybody got any thoughts on any of that? Or anything coming up?
I was working this week with a fellow that immigrated from mainland China, and he's got a young family. He's working very hard on his English and everything. He was asking me, I had gone back later in life for a master's, because you know when you have a bachelor's, the next thing you think, oh, I should have a master's, and when you have a master's, you think, oh, I should have a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
So he was talking about going back for his master's, but he's got a young family, a couple of young kids, and you know, and he was asking all these questions, and he was talking about, you know, a plan, a 5-year plan, and all that. I thought, you know, it's like we get on this treadmill, and I was thinking, you've got 2 young children, you've got a good life, you know, like stop and smell the roses. Do you really need an MBA? You know, once you get that, then what do you need? You know. So yeah, I know sometimes it just seems that people, maybe it's from my perspective because I'm at the end of my career, but you know, I feel sort of badly in some ways for people in the middle, where they're striving so hard to accomplish all these things, and it's sort of like that. There's something about a piece of artwork where the guy duct taped a banana on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Did you see that? Somebody ate it. Yeah.
But
Sold for $110,000.
it shows the fleetingness of life, you know,
Yeah.
in a way, like, you know, material things are only material things,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and we're about the same age, I would say, and there's a whole new set of conditioning that comes up, you know, about what we can and can't do, and it's bullshit. You know, it's just we've been conditioned that this is what we can do as we go through life, and you know, we all have the same amount of time left. This is it, you know, but
We accept a lot of these, like you say, ideas from society, I guess, or what we're raised with, without questioning them too much. Right?
yeah, yeah.
If you're at this age, then you should be
Mm-hmm.
retired or doing whatever.
Yes. Yeah. I have no idea, absolutely no idea, how long I'm going to be here. And of course, neither does anybody else. But with my mind, I watch it sometimes say, yeah, well, you shouldn't be thinking about that, or shouldn't, and it just does it because it's been programmed from television, so when I speak to it, you know, I tell it, because it is like a tool, right? It is my tool. You know, and so I talk to it. Say, are you kidding? Your best years are coming up. This is it. You know, so I kind of, it's like a pet, you know, that I got when it was older. So it has set beliefs that somebody else gave it. And now I have to trick it and play with it and tell it what I want it to think, and, you know, because it has you know, it got a lot of stuff from my mom and my grandmother, and, you know, these are the people that influenced its idea of life. And if I meditate and I see the immenseness of possibility, you know, to be in our full potential, there's no end. It's just really, it's so immense. My buddy James is lately really excited about the fact that it seems that the world is evolving. So, you know, like there's just this big shift happening, and I you know, I believe that's true. I think that we're all part of it, and that there's groups like this happening all over the place, you know, whether we know them or not, whether they're, you know, I mean, sometimes they're groups like this teaching new beliefs, which is different than what I'm trying to share, is that there's life beyond the beliefs, and that, but they're evolving. There's love is happening. You know, there is a new world happening. I had yes.
I was just wanted to comment on, like, sometimes I feel like my mind wants something because it's tangible, because it's something that even if I were to never actually achieve whatever I was striving for, it's something for me to, like you're talking about work, something for me to work towards, because it's something, but nothing is just really intangible, and that, you know, means like endless possibility of what could be, which is, again, like kind of a little bit unnerving, and like, how can you just do nothing? I feel like that's where my mind sort of gets caught up, is like having a direction just allows me to keep moving,
Mm-hmm.
but that idea of like not doing that is like a little, like, that's where I get hung up.
And granted, and imagine, I have a little story about that. When I was younger than you, I was probably under 30. Are you under 30?
I'm 30.
Yeah, so I was a little under 30, and I had two little ones, Emily and Luke, and I was currently married to Linda, and so I was in, you know, I was really in it, you know, and I remember talking to a friend of mine who was quite a wise guy. He was a wise man, and I was complaining that I didn't have purpose. I was like, I don't feel like I have purpose. And he said, oh, you have 2 kids, don't you? I said, yes. And he said, and you and Linda are married, and you have, and I had a job at the time. And he said, what if your purpose is what's in front of you right now? And I was like, oh, my mind was looking for something way bigger. You know, I wanted to have this, save the planet in some way. And so I think if whatever it is that we're doing in this moment is what we need, you know, you're where you need to be, unless it isn't. And then you'll say, well, this is stupid, I'm not doing this anymore. And you know, unless fear keeps you in a space, you know, and you know, let's say you have, you know, just always have had a passion to be an actor. Do we know anybody like that? And you know, so you would just act. I mean, it's like there's an actor in there, and he want to come out. So yours is, you know, what you're doing around community, and it feels right for you. So I think that whatever we're doing is fine, unless it isn't. You know, and so.
If it creates a lot of resistance against your being, then you know you're not doing what you should be doing. I mean, it's creating chaos in life. I mean, if I set a goal and this is where I have to be, I'm limiting myself from so much more that could be there.
I think that's really interesting too, and like, I remember one time when I was in this relationship that I didn't want to let go of, and I realized it was ending, and I was talking to my brother, and I said, well, I'm never going to find anything that's like this again, like I'm never going to, it's never going to happen, and he was like, well, why would you want something like this? And not even in like a totally negative sense, but just like, even in all the good things, why would you want to experience that over again, and have the exact same thing over again? You've already done that. There's this whole, you know, there's endless opportunity, like you were saying.
Life is unlimitedness.
You know, but it is can be scary
Potentiality is like
when
so much larger if you can just allow it.
So the Tantra, you've heard of Tantra. I had a teacher who used to spell it Y-E-S. And that, you know, the whole idea that Tantra was saying yes to life. And, you know, awakening is saying yes to life. And also yes to my no. If what came up was a no, then to be able to be there with my yes to that. And it's out of our conditioning that you know, we don't have often don't have a strong yes. Like if what you're doing in your life, you're going to school, what you're doing is your thing, just be a huge yes, just be there. Really, really be there. Just do it, you know, and do it to the best of your ability, and do it to the, you know, really bring your passion and your enthusiasm to it and into each moment. And if you do that and it's not there, then maybe it's maybe not it. You know, do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, because sometimes we make decisions that seem safe, you know, and we're in the safe decision, and we're only kind of there, and we want, you know, it would be nice to be more there, and yeah. So it's hard to, in a way, to describe, I believe, because when we're focused on the conditioned beliefs and stuff, it really, the only reason I want to focus on them is so that we can become conscious of them, and when it comes up, to just surrender them, you know, or shine the light of love on them, or shine the light of the moment on it, you know. And when we're in it, in our fear, in our judgment, in our anger, you know, that just to focus on and bring the sunlight of the Spirit, if you will, into that, and say, okay, look at that. And those things begin to melt away. And when they melt away, we're lifted up. And has everybody read David Hawkins? We've talked about Hawkins a bit. And Hawkins, I really, really recommend Hawkins, because he has this amazing scale. And it's so, he puts it together in such a way that so that the intellect can actually kind of grasp it a bit, you know. And on his scale, he goes from the bottom in apathy and you know, like the very, you know, shame and guilt and fear, and moves all the way up into anger's actually, you know, anger gets things done, but and into courage and bliss and acceptance, and in the scale he uses numbers from 0 to 1,000 in this scale. So Hawkins, I just really recommend him. It's amazing, and 1,000 is Christ consciousness. So it's amazing, you know, Christ consciousness, and unconditional love is 540 in his scale. So it's quite a bit of room when you think of it, you know, from 540 to 1,000, and it goes out like this, you know. It's how do they call that? Exponentially, yes, and so even from 540 to 590 or 600 is, he said, hardly anybody in the planet actually attains 600. 600 is like bliss, you know. It's hard to get shit done when we're at 600 because we don't need to. We're just like, there's no need. Everything just appears, so I encourage everybody, because on the path of, if we're interested in awakening, having some great teachers are important. And for me, David Hawkins, Dr. David Hawkins has been one of them. Eckhart Tolle has been one of them. Amazing stuff. The Bhagavad Gita. Stephen Mitchell's rendition or translation recently has just been amazing, and I've listened to it over and over and over and over again. And these books are like finding, you know, 30, 40, 50 years ago, you had to go to India to find these people, you know, and to be with them and be in the presence of them. I have a friend who follows Mooji all over the place. Is it Mooji? He goes to Portugal and goes to India, and because Mooji is in an awakened state, and so being in the presence of an awakened person is truly an opportunity, you know, to be in that high vibration. But we can do it with some of their writings, you know. And Hawkins' books, the Bhagavad Gita, he said, vibrates at over 900. You know, Christ consciousness is at 1,000. This poem, the Bhagavad Gita, is over 900. I sleep with that book. I mean, it has that feeling to it, you know, and same with all of Hawkins' books. They're just amazing. So I encourage people to spend time with those, and what happens is that we're just lifted up by being with them. Hawkins measured the vibration of just about everything. The two spiritual teachings that he said were the two highest vibrating spiritual teachings on the planet were Tibetan Buddhism And I had myself had the blessing and the gift to go and be with the Dalai Lama and do initiation with him in India years ago, and the other one that he said was the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, or the 12 steps that are being used in, they actually vibrate at the same level as Tibetan Buddhism at 540, and unconditional love. And so those both have a healing ability to lift us up from shame and guilt and fear, where many of us are at, into this unconditional love. And so I encourage you all to look in those directions, because that's where we can find community, we can find connection, and other people who are also on the same path. I think that maybe we'll meditate. Anybody else got anything that they want to share tonight?
Just the Bhagavad Gita, the theme of letting go of the focus on the outcome and focusing on the process was, that theme stood out for me, and I carried that with me almost daily. So I could focus on the process without an attachment to the outcome.
Yeah, none of our business.
Yeah, it's really not.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're in the process, and if that's with your process is your relationship or yourself or your children or your job, then do it, and the outcome will be the outcome, and the outcome will, once you achieve the outcome, that's your process for whatever other outcome.
Yes. So I don't know if it says this in the Bhagavad Gita, but I think if we have a perceived attachment to an outcome, it will be much more limited than the possibility of the outcome.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Is if I say this is what I'm planning to get,
You get more.
well, if I hold myself, or I,
But yeah, it becomes limited.
yes,
Belief as opposed to.
yeah, it's like because we don't know anything, like nothing, and yeah, it's funny. So when we have an opportunity to serve unselfishly, one of the beautiful things about the 12-step world is that there's an endless supply of people to help. It's just like, because there's so much of it's desperate. People get in desperate situations when they're caught up with drugs and alcohol, in addiction or alcoholism, and when desperation is the father of, or the mother of inspiration in a way. It's out of desperation that we can see, and so that's a beautiful venue to continually have to be able to serve in that venue. And I know lots of people who are not in the 12-step world who are like, where can I go to help? Where can I go? They want to give back in community, and they don't, and it's not easy for them to find a place to give back. But giving back unselfishly or without consideration of results is there's a super opportunity there. And are you connected anywhere? Like, do you do?
No.
Yeah. Well, you have a community now. Yeah. Yeah. It is something that where do we, where can we give back? Okay, and I get
every interaction with the being.
Yes.
Is really it's an opportunity.
Yes.
The way you show up to the person, the cash register, the stores.
Yes.
So you don't know
Present.
what their suffering is. You look at anybody, if they've endured something that would break you, and you've endured something that would break them.
Nice.
That's, and it sounds a little dark on the one side, but it's also just a compassion builder on the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the more I'm not in my mind and I'm fully present in every moment, I'm vibrating on a different level where I'm in service. because I'm connecting with that moment, I'm connecting with that person I'm with, whether they're conscious of it or not.
And it takes you out of it.
I'm fully present with that being, with that person, so that could be an awakening for them. That could be planting seeds,
So to be there in love,
being present
being present
is love.
is love. Yeah. Nice.
Even the most minor interactions with people, cashier or something, and they say, "How are you?" Say, "I'm fine." "How are you?" And be open to, if they were to continue, which most people never do, but you want to be open in case they want to tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
And people sense that, and then you get that connection, and it's like, wow, we're all in this together. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Jared, what's coming up?
Oh, David. What's not coming up? It's been a really powerful session from everything that's been said here. Is totally relate to, and I think for me, I think the biggest thing that I've reflected on is just how I came to this session, where I'm at today in life, and how I got here was through fighting, through surviving. Right? Like ever since I was a kid, that's been my attitude, just in the way I was raised. So at a very young age, I learned that I needed to fight to survive. Right? I needed to try and control things because I never had a sense of security or safety growing up. My life was not my life, but I always felt in limbo, I guess. And so that was, for me, that was wired at a very early age. So, in reflecting and listening tonight to, the idea of, like, I always knew about, like, beliefs, the connection between the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and all that. But I go through phases. I go through phases where I'll come out to meditation, and I resonate with everything, and then for some reason practice and stuff falls off to the side, right? And then what I found is that any work that I've started on rewiring the brain and trying to form new beliefs, if I don't continue the practice, if I don't continue doing it, it all just comes back. Right? Like it's a constant state of, for me, it feels like a constant state of effort and work. And so I get challenged by the idea of just relax into it. Because nothing in my life has been anything to do with relaxing into it. So that challenges me a little bit, right? And it's not that I get my back up about it, it's just immediately I go to a place of, I can't relax, I have bills to pay, I can't relax into just not working and not being purposeful or goal-oriented or have some kind of plan. But I also get conflicted because I look at, especially in my recent 15-month time of sobriety, there have been so many times where I've come up with plans, and I've come up with budgets, and I've come up with ways of saving money here and doing, and something always happens. That is like beyond my control.
Like a miracle?
The opposite way though.
Oh.
A setback.
Okay.
An obstacle. And then so what does that do? So immediately I'm like, well, that challenges my trust and my faith in God and the universe, and then I'm like, well, I gotta work even harder now. And I gotta try even harder. So I get challenged with the concept of just relax into it. But it's not something I'm adverse to, because obviously what I've been doing up to this point hasn't been working. Or it has, because it got me here. Right? go home tonight, that's going to be able to cover everything that is going on for me right
Well, the neat thing is that we recorded, so you can look at it again and bring it up.
now. Right? It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Can I just throw something out for you?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you and I have known each other for what, 15 years?
Yeah.
And the one underlying thing that I've had to get, that I suspect is the most difficult one for many of us to get, is that I cannot manage my life. I just, you know, and I of course imagine that others can, and maybe they can. Maybe Elon manages his life. I don't fucking know. You know, that's my, you know, because when I'm comparing somebody else's outsides to my insides, it's I picked this guy, Elon, you know, Starman, right? And now, you know, but my continued story has been that I have to surrender, you know, and
That you just, yeah, I guess there are people out there that can do it.
seems to be. We don't really know that.
Make plans and goals, strategize themselves, get to where they quote want to be in life. And I may have to look at starting to accept the fact that I'm not of that personality type.
Well, whether it's personality or whether it's, you know, trauma when we were 6, you know, who knows what the deal is. But in a second, yeah. But for me, you know, because I really did strive. I just was like, you know, come on, God, just let me have this $1 million, please. And you know, and I really did. I was like, you know, just. And in this, especially the last couple of years, I mean, I literally slept in the store. I did all of those things to try and get my way. And when I finally surrendered totally, when I finally said, okay, all right, yes, and I just let it all go, what a sense of relief, what a sense of awakening, what a sense of, you know, not knowing even where I was going to live. Just letting it all go and just boom. But at the same time doing a lot of work to stay connected. You know, always ABC, always be connecting. For me, connecting to the moment. You know, we have so many words for this thing. You know, universal intelligence, quantum field, you know, God, whatever we want to call it. You know, I don't think it matters so much. That, you know, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, I'm all gods. You know, he said that it's every idea or concept of that is the same. And Eckhart Tolle really helps when he talks about the power is in this moment. And whatever it is that we're connecting with that we can't describe, because we really can't, doesn't really matter, but it is only in this moment. And so that's the game, is to be here now, and the only way I can be here now is to let go of a lot of my conditioning and either have it ripped out of my hands, you know, by life, you know, at my request, I'm sure, because I did pray for that, lots, you know, I just, you know, wanted it my way. It didn't happen that way. And so, yeah, you and I are so much alike in that, you know, we'll, you know, want to manage right to the end of.
Yeah, there's a couple of, like, I mean, if I look at the course of my life for the last couple of years since I was baptized as a Christian a couple of years ago.
Yes.
There is progress in areas of my life where I seem to practice more of letting go. For instance, my acting career.
Mm-hmm.
There was a point when I started to push to be professional that I was really trying to push for everything. And I became so stressed out and ended up having to drop a bunch of projects. That was it, that was all. And now, you know, I've got to the point with my professional career that I'm not pushing for it. It's meant to happen. Like I seem to have gotten to a more peaceful place with it.
And it's happening.
And it's happening in spite of my efforts. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it's
Yeah.
because that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
If I get into a relationship sense, the relationship quadrant, or finance quadrant, it's a completely different story. I gotta be able to try and control, manipulate, do everything to have what I want in those areas. It's like whack-a-mole.
I have no idea what you're talking about. We all do, isn't it? Yeah.
I've had new experiences with a book that's something that feels so familiar that I've always kind of known about it, but it's when I've always said it my whole life, I'm never going to save money. Because if I save money, I'm limiting myself of how much I'm going to have, even though I've never been able to do very good with that. But I'm learning that the more I surrender, the more I start to receive things. And things start coming in my life that are experiences that I would have never ever imagined. And I'm not limiting myself, but I'm also trying to let go of my old belief system as well.
And I think what James is saying is so important that let's imagine, just for argument's sake, that what we've been taught around relationship, money, career, self-worth, is for the most part been tainted, to put it lightly. To go, really go strongly to say it was mostly bullshit. So our programming around these areas is how we're still living out our, from our own, we're trying to manage these things from that programming. And so rather than try to reprogram, if we can live where the source of power is in the moment, and surrender.
That's another powerful message tonight. Instead of focusing on the behavior and trying to change the behavior, it's about focusing on the source and being connected to the
Yes.
And the behavior changing will be a result.
We just float up.
It just, right? So it will naturally change, like organically, not that it'll change out of that.
Sure.
direction.
So when we see a conditioned belief and we become aware of it, we accept it, it changes on its own, because acceptance lifts us up. Acceptance is all really close to unconditional love. It's way up in the 400s.
And that's only one mole to whack.
Yeah.
Whereas the behaviors are a ton of other moles. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We're always hitting the
and the behavior, right? But you only need to hit the one mole.
You can't, because they're always popping up saying, I'm over here, I'm over here. Yeah. Who do you think you are, asshole? And so this idea of turning it over to whatever it is that we conceive that power to be. Surrendering, because often we have a small, limited idea of God. We have this idea that, he's kind of busy, he only has a little bit of time for us. And, that he's separate from us. That we can't access him that there's some other being. And that we're not part of it. And I love in the 12-step book where it says, God either is or he isn't, either he's everything or he's nothing. And if it's everything, then it just, he's even our conditioning in a way, but we connect to this source, this everything, we're lifted up.
That was We Agnostics, right?
Yes.
I just read that last night.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. And so we can do whatever it is we want, if we want, or whatever it is we are inspired to, if we were inspired to, or, it's the fear that we're not going to be able to that keeps us in management. So we watch the fear when it comes up. In that same book where it says when, fear set in motion, trains of circumstance, which later places, in a position, or trains of circumstance that brought us misfortune we thought we didn't deserve, I think. But basically our fears create our reality. So if we have a fear, we see it, we become conscious. Consciousness, I always thought consciousness was like something outside of us. You know what I mean? I thought, what's this consciousness? How do I find it? And So if I become conscious of my fear and go, look, and I see it, and then I'm present in the moment, I breathe into it, or I'm here, or I say a little prayer, or whatever brings me into the moment with the fear just melts. And because my fear, you relate to this, I think, often if I entertain it, it has a story, right? Fear is, this is not going to work, you're not going to be able to pay the rent, they're looking at somebody else for that part, all of this stuff, and so we're imagining circumstance with energy, with emotion, so we're putting power into it, and instead of love. And is that a hint? Okay. Love, okay. So if we bring love, because love is what's in that moment, right? Love is in the moment. Love is here. Love is now. And we bring love into that moment or into that fear, and it just melts. And we float up. We do. So instead of changing behaviors, which is like, I say it's like rearranging the seats on the Titanic. That ship is going down. So instead of doing that, changing behaviors, going for therapy, God bless therapists, because, but I just think that sometimes they're just trying to change our behaviors or reframe our beliefs. And imagine, a lifetime of reframing beliefs so that we see them differently. It's called therapy. Anyway, when we can just actually breathe, breath brings us into the moment. Say thank you. Gratitude brings us, into love. And we're there. It's a practice. And help others. Beautiful thing about helping others, especially in the world that you and I know, is that we see ourselves all the time. And it helps us to be more conscious. It's beautiful. Wow. Thank you. Really, thank you for bringing that. Yeah. It's beautiful. Should we maybe meditate for 10 minutes? I love the meditation part. I hope when we do, because we're live, on Facebook, and then I just hope that you guys meditate too. And I'm so grateful that you guys are here to for us to do this, and for I don't know if anybody else is getting anything, but no, I don't know if anybody else is getting anything, and this has been so good for me to do this last, we're coming up next week will be 7 weeks, and watching my thought process around it, and I had my fears and all kinds of stuff around doing it, and it's just been, and it's allowed me to kind of take Mondays and be very, drop in. I think I sat for 3 hours today. I didn't, not all of it was meditation, but just to kind of prepare and be able to be here. So thank you for coming, and thank you for watching. And before we start to meditate, I just want to mention that on Sunday the 15th, we have a potluck at the house, and everybody's welcome to please come and celebrate this season, love. We'll call it the love season, Christmas, and just no need to bring anything other than maybe food for the table, but we're not doing a gifty thing. So that's Sunday, and kind of like 3 to 8. And the other thing is that we've turned their house into a shop. I've got so much stuff left from when we had the store, so don't go Christmas shopping anywhere else. Some bargains at the house, and we want it to go out into people's homes and bless them, with this cool stuff. So drop by anytime, but we're officially kind of doing it Saturday and Sundays, and this Sunday we'll move it all downstairs, because we'll have the upstairs for the potluck. Follow us on YouTube. You'll love that. We're kind of building a YouTube channel, and we're going to start a podcast too. We've got all of this material, and we're just going to use it. We'll take this off of the videos and just do a podcast out of this, and maybe trim some of it down a bit. But so we're going to do a podcast.
A little plug to we have a friend, Naya, who has some handmade jewelry, as well as we have a lady coming in with some natural salve products.
So we've kind of opened the space up for other people to bring their stuff too, at our little sales, and which has been fun. And Naya is her name. She's been there the last 2 Saturdays, and we've been grateful to have her in the house. So I think that's it. The other thing is that I'm really open to doing one-on-ones, to be with people individually, and if you want to explore this idea of consciousness and awareness of old belief systems, so that we can let them go, not change them or play with them or reframe them, but just actually let them go. And in the process of doing that, I'm open to being, coaching a bit on that, and I think that's it. So we're going to meditate for 10 minutes, and then we'll be done. And if you're watching this video, I'd love it if you share it or comment, say something. I love it when people ask questions. So we'll connect that way. So let's just drop in. Everybody, hopefully, is comfortable. Make yourself really comfortable, and 10 minutes will just fly by. And if you are, if you're watching and you're a little uncomfortable meditating, just sit somewhere where you can just be comfortable and recognize that you can let go of the idea of time. You don't have to watch. In 10 minutes we'll be done, and you'll know it. We'll let you know. So just release that, and if the phone rings, you can get it later. Nothing is that important for 10 minutes. Just watch your breath. How powerful breath is. It brings us into the moment. And as we practice being in the moment, we start to become aware of what's happening in the moment. Just thank your mind for giving you this time. Just maybe ask it if it'll just relax. That you're just going to be here in a very quiet state. And that it can come back to attention in a little bit. And when we're sitting and meditating and breathing, and the thoughts roll through, just let them go. They're just like clouds. Many of them aren't even yours. They're not our thoughts, they're just thoughts. If we just let them pass through without attention, they'll keep moving. There's nothing to do. Just breathe. Feel into our bodies and sit. Take your time. Come back when you're ready. I want to thank everybody for watching and joining us tonight.